everyone, I'm Jesse, and welcome to another edition of Gen X Thinks. And today we have a user-inspired edition. I'd like to thank FreeCat1278 for suggesting this topic. And we're going to talk about whether or not Donald Trump could and or should end the Fed. The Fed is in the Federal Reserve Bank. For a little bit of history and backstory, the Federal Reserve Bank had been trying to insert itself into the federal government, basically between the federal government and the people, since the institution of the American country. They tried and got kicked out and tried over and over again, but the American people and the American government wouldn't have it. They kept getting kicked out. The last time that I'm aware of that they got kicked out was during the Civil War, and that was Abraham Lincoln. He was having problems funding the war, and he was complaining about it, and one of his cabinet members, I believe, or one of his generals told him basically that we're a sovereign nation. We can just print our own money. We don't have to borrow it from this bank. So that's what happened, and the money that Lincoln started printing had greenbacks. The backside was green. So that's where we get that term greenbacks. That was the last of the real money printed by Americans, by America, by the American sovereign government printing its own money. So then in 1913, Woodrow Wilson basically sold us out. He took the money from the bank, they paid him millions of dollars and got him and spent millions more getting him elected president. And as soon as Congress or whatever went out on a holiday break, he got them together in a special session, a few select members, and voted this bank in. And going back to Lincoln, as Lincoln did that, Lincoln got rid of the bank, and then he turns up dead. So that's another coincidence. But anyway, so we can thank Woodrow Wilson for this shit. He's the one that did it, and I've read quotes several times, basically the same quote, but I've seen it several times, and it's about how much he regrets what he did to America and to the American people by selling us out like that. And, I mean, it's true. It's the most horrible thing that's ever been done. I know it doesn't seem that way, money and all this shit, but it has changed the course of America in so many ways that it's crazy. We would not have an income tax without it, and especially, we definitely would not have a permanent tax that's so high. We could be paying between 1% and 5% just flat tax and be paying everything off, right? And not be in debt and all this stuff. How do we get trillions of dollars in debt to this bank? And then there's another thing, there's another good question. If every single country around the world is in debt, every single one of them, China, Russia, name a country, they're in debt. Who are they in debt to? Ever think about that? They're in debt to that central bank. And it started in England, and it's spread throughout the world. So, from what I understand, from what I've read, now it could have earlier roots even before that, but England was the first. That's the head of the central bank is in England, from what I understand. And it's got, smaller branches at different governments throughout the world. Definitely throughout Western society, Western civilization. Now, could Donald Trump get rid of this bank? That I don't know. I'm not sure, because it was put in place by Congress. I think that legally it would take Congress to get rid of it. Could he do the same thing that Lincoln did and just start printing his own money? I'm not sure about anymore. I don't know how the laws work, and the laws are so convoluted now and stuff, and that's done on purpose, so we don't know. So, I mean, technically he could, and I know we could. We as a population, we could do it. We could just start using whatever we wanted as our currency, right? We could just do it tomorrow. We could all just say, okay, we're going to start using Bitcoin or whatever could be our currency we're going to start using. And we could make our own money, our own paper money. So the answer to the first question, can he do it? I don't know. With our help, he could. I know that. But legally, can he do it? I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he legally can do it. With enough support in Congress, I believe so. Now, in 1913, the government signed a 100-year contract with the Federal Reserve to instate them, and it came up again in 2013 for renewal. Well, it got renewed for another 100 years. In 2013, they could have just put a stop to it there and just not renewed the contract, and it would be a moot point. But 2013 came and went, and nobody said a damn thing. Nobody gave a shit. Nobody cared. So getting them out legally would be tough. It would be difficult. Not impossible. I don't think nothing is impossible as far as getting things done on this earth with real physical things. It's not impossible, but it would be difficult. It would be difficult to do. The second half of that question is, should he? Should he? In my personal opinion, definitely yes. Yes, it's the worst thing to ever happen to our country. It's the worst thing to ever happen to the world. It is the biggest fraud perpetrated on humanity since the uprise of humanity, since farming started. You know what I mean? Since we started farming. It's the biggest pile of bullshit. It's why we have all these wars. It's why we have the stock market and all this shit. And this stock market is tied right into the bank. It's just a way to manipulate these big companies and control these big companies. It's the way the bank does it. No other, not Elon Musk, none of them have the money that these banks do, to where they can just literally on a computer type in as many zeros as they want, and that money just appears out of nowhere with nothing backing it. It just exists all of a sudden. So they can just type up $40 trillion out of nothing. Takes them 2 minutes to do it, and then throw that into an investment account and basically buy Microsoft. They own 50% of the corporation or whatever it takes to gain control. So, and that's what they do through companies like BlackRock and Vanguard, these huge companies. If you don't know about these companies, that's all they do. They just invest. Where they get all the money for their investing? From the banks. The banks just print it up out of nothing. They didn't earn it. They didn't borrow it. Nothing. It just appears out of thin air. Not even thin air. You say thin air, but it just in the ether, the airless ether of the internet. It's just there all of a sudden for them to use. That in itself is sickening, because the rest of us don't have that. We don't have that ability to just manifest money out of nothing because we're better than everybody else. But that's where the control starts, is at the top with the banks, and the stock market is the method of control, and the money is another method of control that they use to invest in these companies and control these companies. That's why these companies do this DEI shit. That's why these governments, they're lending the money to the government, and The person giving you the money is the person controlling you. You do not, the government works for the central bank, just like you work for your boss who's paying you. The government works for the central bank who's paying them. Period. It's that simple. It really is that simple. But they make it look so convoluted and so intellectual that dummies like us can't understand it. That's just over our heads. I can't. I just stay out of it. It's so complicated. No, it's really simple. The government obeys the people who are paying them. So they have influence. That central bank has influence, but they do not have power. They have no power whatsoever. All they have, they can influence these companies through stocks and all this stuff. But if let's just say that every single American decided to just stop buying from Amazon for 1 month. Not a single thing. Just like back in the 90s or the 80s when Amazon didn't exist. We just lived like that for 1 month. Didn't order a damn thing. Just if we wanted something, we got in the car and went to the store and bought it. Just like the old times. Just back in the ancient days. We got in a cart and wagon and drove to the store. What would happen? Amazon stock would plummet. It'd be all over the news. Just after Jeff Bezos offed himself, the new incoming CEO would be begging us to come back and start ordering stuff, and there'd be all kinds of lies on the media about how bad this is for everything, and how we need to start ordering from Amazon again, and how we're destroying the planet and we're causing the weather to change and all this stuff by not ordering from Amazon, and new illnesses are popping up because we're not ordering from Amazon. You know the drill. And whatever, let's say we made a demand, we want them to stop with the DEI shit, right? And then we said, whatever company is out there doing that DEI shit from now on, we're not going to support. You're going to get Amazoned. They would tighten up overnight. They would abandon that shit overnight. They would get rid of that shit so quick. Why? Because we have the power. And we have the power to end the Fed. We do. Just shut it down. We have the power to control our own destiny. We have the power to control the destiny of our country. The only thing that's stopping us is all of this division. Because even if half of us said, "Oh, we're gonna stand up for and against Amazon and stop ordering from them," what's the reason? Why? Because whatever they sell X whatchamacallits. Well, half the people would love X whatchamacallits, and they would hate the other half who hated X whatchamacallits, right? So division. That's why people can't stand together anymore. And a lot of the division is in place by design from that bank, and it just filtered down. They're told, the government's told, the companies are told, to do this, and this. And it creates division. It makes us hate each other. The ants on the ground hating each other while the broom is just sweeping them off the porch. The ants are too busy hating each other to even realize there's a broom, let alone to look up the broom and see who's holding it. So should he end the Fed? Yes. It would be hard. On us. For the first, I don't know, we might even have a Great Depression or something, but we would survive. People would survive. Our economy it would be a shock to our economy. But so is, brain surgery. When they remove cancer out of somebody's brain. That's a shock. But it's good. Removing brain cancer is good. It's a good thing. Nobody can deny that. But it's painful and it takes a lot of healing afterward. It's the same thing. That Federal Reserve is a cancer in our government, in our society, and it should be taken out. The amount of war we're in would plummet. They would go away. The debt would go away. Just imagine what life could be like in America if none of that shit, if we weren't controlled by all these huge corporations and these crooked lying government politicians and all this shit. Just imagine, and imagine if capitalism had been left alone to actually flourish instead of being corrupt. And because all these companies, they squash these smaller upstart companies that want to give stuff out for free or very cheap or make lives better for Americans. They get squashed. We could probably have free electricity. We could probably have electric cars, because there were electric cars back when in the beginning of the 20th century, 1900s, when cars first came out. There were electric cars back then, but they got killed off. Probably the people who were making them were killed off. Imagine free electricity, electric cars that have been developed and worked on and improved for 100 years. Not just new ones like Tesla and stuff. I'm talking about old ones. Ford. What if Ford had made an electric car and improved it over the last 100 years? Made it better and better and better through real capitalism. So Chevy would make an electric car and make it better, and Nissan and all these different, they were actually competing against each other to make better products and hire the best people to manufacture them. So we'd have free electricity, we'd have free fuel for our car, we'd have free, all of this stuff. We wouldn't have to work so hard to pay the bills. Imagine how wonderful just the housing market would be, and if everybody was flush with cash because they didn't have electric bills and gas. We didn't have to buy gas every week and all this stuff. And that's just one thing. Imagine all the stuff. Cancer. Have they cured cancer? Do we know that they haven't cured cancer? I honestly, my conspiracy theory is that they have. It's just too stupid to believe that they haven't. For me, I'm not calling anybody stupid who doesn't, but I'm just saying I just think they have. They just make too much money. Why is it that it's illegal to treat cancer in any other way except for that chemotherapy and stuff in America? Why do you have to go to Mexico to get any other kind of treatment? It's by law. I don't know if y'all know that. But by law, you can only use that certain chemotherapy and stuff. Why? This is America. So whoever makes that chemotherapy stuff, whoever makes that stuff, probably has a financial incentive to keep that law in place and to keep the cure for cancer hidden under the rug. If it's there, if it's out there. All that kind of stuff. And even if, let's say they don't have a cure for cancer, okay? If there was no Federal Reserve, then we wouldn't be spending trillions of dollars on war, and we could put that money toward curing cancer, toward coming up with an HIV vaccine, toward curing the common cold and flu and all this other stuff, toward making life better for average normal people, bringing down healthcare costs. With $30-something trillion, we could fix a lot of stuff. And that's just the debt we're in. Just the debt. We could pay, there's another thing how would America run without an income tax, right? How would the American government run without an income tax? Could it fund itself? Yes. Simply, it's really simple when you think about it. Number one, tariffs. Tariffs would take care of the vast majority of it. We are the biggest importer of goods around the world. Everybody exports their goods to America. We buy more shit, more wasteful bullshit than any other country in the world. So tariffs, all right? Then let's say the tariffs don't cover it. How else could we do it? Well, we're the world's police. So when you go over and police something, they should kick in my opinion. They should pay us for that service. Now, that isn't any more evil or crooked or anything than robbing the American people to pay for that service, to be straight up and honest and tell whatever country, you pay us for that service. We'll do it, but you pay us. How is one frowned upon and the other the direct theft of the common person? How is that looked on as okay? All right, so you do that. You just shift that burden onto the people who are using the service. That's pretty damn simple. And then even if that's not enough, there are just infinite ways that the government could make money. I'm sure my followers and whoever's watching this video can come up with many, many more ways that the government can make money. But even so, say they don't have enough, then you put a 1% tax on people, 1% to run the government, 1% for Social Security, 1% for whatever, up to 5% max, flat maximum 5%. You cannot, by law, take more than 5% out of someone's check. By law. And then if they don't want Social Security, they don't have to pay into it. They can opt out. But it's a once in a lifetime thing. Say you wouldn't be able to opt out of Social Security until you're 25 or 30 when you have enough sense to give it some thought. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, okay, I want to opt out of that. Don't let 18-year-olds opt out of Social Security, then end up on the streets, in retirement. So, but yeah, you do that. If a small tax, and maybe it's voted on every year, maybe whatever, but it's a small tax. And then whatever money that they collect from that tax, that's what they have to spend the next year. That's all they have to spend. That's it. They don't get to borrow any money from anybody. They don't get to go into debt and do all this shit. They collect taxes one year, and that's their budget for the next year. Period. End of story. So yeah, I think that Donald Trump can end the Fed with our help, and I definitely think he should. It would be painful, but I think that America would be a lot better off in the long run if we did that. And I'll leave you there with that. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and comment. If you'd like to become a member of Gen X Thinks, I'll put that link down in the description, or you can head over to the channel page and become a member that way. If you'd like to support the channel directly, you can do so by clicking on that super thanks button down there. Or you can head over to Buy Me a Cup of Coffee and buy me a cup of coffee. I thank you for all of those who support the channel that way. I appreciate it very much. If you're interested in Gen X gear, you can head over to Redbubble and check out the stuff we have over there. Gen X Thinks and Gen X branded stuff. Pretty cool stuff. T-shirts, coffee mugs, stickers, all kinds of stuff like that. But I'll put that link down in the description as well. If you can't or don't want to support the channel in any of those ways, you can always do so by sharing these videos on your social media. Thank you very much to those of you who do that. I appreciate your help getting the word out and waking people up to the truth. If you have any ideas for future episodes of Gen X Thinks, please put those down in the comments, or you can head over to the channel page and email us from there. And as always, stay frosty, Gen X, and I'll see you on the next one.